o'clock, so we'll give people another 2 or 3 minutes and then we'll get you started.
Sounds good.
We are up to 31 people, so you've got quite an audience, which is good.
That's
Very
great.
nice.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I love seeing the numbers go up. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming today. So for those of you that just joined, just want to make you aware that you are welcome to join the team today and follow along using the instructions on the screen. Don't feel like you have to, especially those of you that might be new to Teams, maybe not as familiar with it. In that case, I encourage you to just sit back, watch, take notes, and come up with ideas that will help you and your team. All right, Lee, I think we're probably ready.
Think we can get going? Wonderful. Well, good morning and welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending. My name is Lee Davis. I am a member of the Innovations Advisory Team, and I'm going to be monitoring the time today. We'll have about 40 minutes for presentation and a few more minutes for questions and answers that you can type into the chat, and we will address those. This session is being recorded, so you can use this in the future. And right now, it is my pleasure to introduce Jody Gardei, who's going to present Workspace of the Future. Take it away.
Thank you, Lee. As she mentioned, I'm Jody Gardei. I'm the current manager of the Staff Center for Training and Development, and I also host a Microsoft 365 learning community. And that is the place where I was really encouraged to put together this presentation, because the group of people that participate in that, they've come together, they've really inspired me to think about how I can do things differently. So as we get started today, I want you to close your eyes. And imagine it's the end of the day and you're feeling a sense of accomplishment and preparedness for the next day. Now, open your eyes and face your current reality. You're probably thinking, I have too much work, too little time, and too much stress, and that maybe something needs to change. So when you think about your stressors at work, what's your number one stressor? And I want you to go ahead and type that into the chat box. I know my number one stressor is email. And getting those emails in, checking them all day long, wondering how I'm going to get all those things done, stresses me out. So type in the chat box, what is the one thing you struggle with the most? Yeah, we have organization, overlapping tasks in there, workload, technology functioning properly, social media management. Yeah, determining ultimate, things are coming in so fast, I can't catch them all, but I think you can all see them. There's a lot of things going on out there. And hopefully during the session today, you will find some tools or tips that will help you in managing that stress. And in particular, we're going to be looking at the Microsoft 365 suite of applications and how they can assist you with reducing this stress. So earlier on, I mentioned that you can join this team if you want to follow along, for those of you that are Teams users. For those of you that are not familiar with Teams, I just encourage you to sit back and watch and maybe join the team later. So write that team code down. So during our session today, we're going to kind of go through a flow. We're going to start thinking about our current mindset when it comes to work, with the way that we manage our time in the workplace. And after we take a look at that and see possibly where some of our issues might come from, start envisioning a better way of doing things, taking a look at some tools that might make our life a little bit easier. And then creating a new mindset. This is your opportunity to take what you know, the things that you see about are possible, and then how you might take that learning into your future. So my goal today is not to make you an expert at using any of these tools. It's really to give you a glimpse into the power of communication, collaboration, and coordination that is available when using different tools. So let's go ahead and get started. Our current mindset. So I did a quick search on the internet on some articles about workplace of the future, workspace of the future, and these were some of the words that popped up. But in particular, one that really stood out to me was connectedness. That connectedness that we need in the workplace. We're in a knowledge is really the way of the future. There's knowledge jobs all over the place, and we need to stay connected with each other. We have to have unified communications. We need to be flexible and rethink maybe some of the physical spaces that we have. So looking at these words, is there anything else that you're inspired to add to this list? What other words come to mind when you think of the workspace of the future? Go ahead and type those in the chat. Innovation, collaboration, VR, virtual, teaching an old dog new tricks. Thanks, Mary. Remote work. Yeah, and even I was thinking social, right? There's all this talk about social tools in the workplace, portable office, far-reaching. Yeah, job sharing even is something that comes to mind. So these are all things that, you know, when we're thinking about how we're going to work in the future, that we need to keep in mind. And the word uncertainty is up there. I found that to be fairly interesting because uncertainty has to do with change, right? So things are changing, and we all know that change is the only constant in life. So we need to get used to changing the way that we do things in order to move ourselves into the workplace of the future. So recently, some of us have gotten a glimpse into the future of work. Our minds were probably opened as we learned that we can work anywhere, anytime. And we can be flexible, especially this past year has done that to us. And we can still be productive, but it's a change, it's a shift in our mindset. So maybe your desk looks a little bit like the one there in the computer. I know mine does at home. We have it, but work is changing. Work isn't just going into the office from 9 to 5. It's really just being able to produce results. So for those of you that are within Teams, I'm going to change what we're showing over here. So if you're within Teams, you'll probably see this poly poll that's in the posts area. And what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and take that poll right now. And while those who are using Teams are taking that poll, I'm going to bring those questions up on the screen for those of you that are not using it. So you can maybe type some responses in the chat box. So number one, I sometimes have trouble with locating files, and we're talking about electronic files. Maybe we're talking about paper files too. But if you have trouble locating files, true or false? And the second question is, I sometimes have trouble with sharing documents. So trying to get a document shared with somebody, trying to figure out how you're going to do that in the most efficient way possible. I struggle with document versioning. So if you have a document, you have to share it with somebody else. That copy comes back to you, maybe 3 people. You have all these documents and you're not sure which one's the current version, or you struggle with trying to organize that. And then the final question, approximately how much amount of time do you spend locating and sharing documents each week? Mary says too much. All right, so I'm going to go back over to Teams over here. And it looks like we have 14 people that completed this, plus we have some people that responded in the chat. So we're going to review the results. So 8 out of 8 over 7 for saying true, they have problem locating files. Some of this is because I'm new to the position or I've used the cloud for file storage for a while now. So that must have been somebody that doesn't have a problem with it. I sometimes have trouble with sharing documents. No, I can share, but others may struggle with a shared electronic file. So maybe one person knows how to use the technology, but another doesn't. And the size of the file isn't always email friendly. Yeah, that's another thing that comes to mind. You have to watch the size of your documents. So you're not using the same process every time you share something. I struggle with document versioning. We just had more people that said false than true. I'd be curious if the people that don't struggle with it, is it because you're the only one that's working on the file, or because you have a really good process in place for making sure those documents are all, that people know what the current document is. So type that in the chat if you have a response for that. Yep, SharePoint lets you revert if needed. And then finally, the amount of time you spend on locating and sharing documents each week. And it seems like it's anywhere, it's kind of an even mix here, but mostly between 16 and 30 minutes. That's 16 to 30 minutes you could have back in your day. You know, productivity right now with being asked to do more with less. Definitely. So this is kind of where we're all coming from. Thank you for sharing that with me. And this is kind of part of the presentation as well. You can see that I'm using a technology within Teams to gather information from people. And it didn't take me that much effort to get this information as well. So thank you for participating in that. So next I have a video that I want to share with you. We're going to take a look at some commonly used communication tools, AKA email. And we're going to compare that to using Teams, because that's the tool that we're going to be using today. And hopefully my audio is shared. Let me see. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare just to make sure my audio is sharing. There we go. All right. Share. Let's compare how much time is spent composing an email in Outlook versus composing a chat in Teams. I have both applications open, just like they would be during the normal workday. So the scenario is, I'm working on a project and need to share a document with my student assistant for her review. First, I'm going to send the document to her via email and time how long it takes to compose and send the email. Second, I'm going to compose the message via Teams and time how long that takes. So let's go. Okay, as you can see, sending the email with the attachment took 1 minute. I'm going to reset the clock and bring up Teams. Let's go. "36 seconds. How many emails do you send and respond to in one day? Just think how much time you could get back into your day if everyone was using Teams to collaborate. So just looking at the results for that one chat that I chose to use Teams for the second time, saved 24 seconds. And if you have 100 emails, whether that's 100 in a day or 100 within a week, that adds up to 40 minutes of your time spent sending documents and replying an email. And that doesn't even account for having to save that document somewhere else, to open it, edit it, return it back. And we're just talking about the initial sending of the email as well. So we need to think about it. We need to think about more being intentional about the tools we use to communicate with each other. Because I'm pretty sure most of us don't wake up in the morning and say, gee, I can't wait to check my email. I know that's not me. So if you knew a better way to collaborate and share documents and communicate with people, would you do it? Because when you take a look at it, there's only 4 steps in sending a Teams message versus the 6 steps it takes to send an email. So there are some benefits to using Teams over using your email. One, it's going to save time. Another is there's no need to move that conversation or the email into a folder. You're saving even more time. It's going to be easier for you to find that document because you know where you're conversing with that person based on the team that they're in. You don't have to go searching for that folder in your email because you know it's in that team space. So of course, Teams isn't always going to be the best way to communicate. You're not going to be able to get rid of email, right? Because you need email to be able to communicate with people outside your organization. Maybe there's someone within the organization that doesn't use Teams. You know, we're not there yet. So using email is one of the ways that you have to work with them until they're up to speed on how to use Microsoft Teams. And sometimes you're just sharing one-time information with somebody. Maybe it's an email you got. It's just faster to forward that email on to somebody else. So email is still going to have its purpose. You're going to have to communicate with people outside of the organization and some people that just aren't using Teams based on the nature of the work that they do. So I want to talk a little bit about situations in which it's better to use Microsoft Teams. And we are going to get into Microsoft Teams and take a look at where some of these are today. But one of them is communicating with people who work at a desk all day with you, or that work at a desk all day, just like you do. It's much easier to go into Teams and select chat than it is to, let me bring Teams up over here. It's easier to go into this chat area and start a chat with somebody than it is to try to figure out what their phone number is and give them a phone call. You can easily come in here and create a new chat, type that person's name up, and Jeff, you're the current person who's in my my area here, so I can find Jeff in here easily and come down here to do a message or make a quick phone call with him right within Teams. Very simple to do that. So that's one thing. If you have to ask a quick question of somebody and time is of the essence, if somebody has the Teams interface open, they're going to get a notification that someone's trying to contact them, and you can quickly respond to that versus Like me, I check my email maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Email takes a lot longer to get that response. And of course, I like to use Teams in order to share files. So if Jeff and I are having a conversation, I can attach a file. I can quickly attach a file to this, and we have that file as a part of our conversation. And I can come back to this conversation anytime to the files area, and I will see that file there, and we can continue that conversation. So it's great for working on projects together and getting work done. So I'm curious, how many of you are using Teams right now as a way to collaborate with other people around the university? Go ahead and share that in the chat. Yeah, we have some people raising their hands. I'm curious to hear what your experience is like with using Teams, just from one person, if you want to unmute yourself. So some people are using it minimally. Looks like Andrew's using it. See, Andrew's over here. He's in my chat. So see, I got that right away. I'm in a meeting and I got that, right? So it's just a great way to communicate and to get a hold of people. I don't recommend interrupting people in the middle of a meeting. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn on do not disturb. You know, that's one of my things to do so I don't get those notifications while I'm in a meeting. Thanks, Andrew. So as you can see, we're just talking about Teams and email and, you know, the amount of time that you can save. And right now, I know it's really easy for people to think, yeah, but what I'm doing, it's working for me. I know how to use email. I can go in there, I can attach something to it and send it to someone, and I have this one place where I can go for everything. And yeah, it's true. You have one place you can go for everything, but is it really the best way to communicate? So let's take a look at maybe envisioning a better way, utilizing some new tools that we all have access here to at the university. And these are the 4 most commonly used tools that I use out of the Microsoft 365 suite. That we're going to take a closer look at, but I also use Stream, I use Sway, there's just a bunch of different applications out there that you can use and integrate all together. And the great thing is we're going to be using the majority of these tools through Teams today. So I'm going to take you on a quick tour, and then we're going to go into a case scenario where you can see how you can utilize Microsoft Teams effectively to communicate and collaborate with other people. All right. So first off, this is the Teams interface. And for those of you that don't have Teams, if you come down here and type in Teams, you'll see it. You can turn the app on. If you don't have it, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go out to the internet. So just open an internet browser and type in office.ferris.edu. That's office.ferris.edu, and log into your Ferris account. And what that'll do is it will bring you up to this welcome screen where you will have access to all of the applications that are within the 365 suite. So that's office.ferris.edu. Maybe you go a different way to get in there. You can also click on this waffle here if you don't know the names of things, and go into Teams. When you go into Teams here, if you click on your profile picture, you can download the desktop app or the mobile app, whichever one you want. That's how you get the application. So, and you'll find that using the application on your desktop, it'll give you those notifications that you want. It'll open up the interface every day, so you have that there and you'll start getting notifications. Versus if you use the web version, you have to be logged in to the web version and turn on notifications to get it. But the interface looks quite a bit the same for both of them. Okay, so starting at the top is activity. Anytime you get something new and you don't look at it, it's going to show in your activity thread right up here. So even when I created this poly the other day, I got a little message that was created up here, notifying me and anyone else in the team that was created. So don't worry about missing something. If something pops up and you can't get to it, you can come to your activity feed and click on these and quickly get your information from there. Within chat, we looked at this one. This is where you can have those one-on-one conversations. If there's somebody you talk to a lot, you can pin them so they show up at the top and they don't fall off your list. If you don't want to see that conversation anymore, you can hide it. Just get that to come off of your list. So while chat is the one-on-one space, the area in Teams is where you'll see all of your teams. And I changed to the grid view for today. So you just come into your Teams and you have access to everything that your team has access to. And in this case, we have our posts, we have files we can share with each other. We have a OneNote notebook within here. We are even using tasks, which used to be called Planner. And we have some links out here as well that we'll take a look at. The calendar is your Outlook calendar. And the neat thing about this calendar right here is you can come in and set up a new Teams meeting. So anytime you use new meeting here, it's going to set up a Teams meeting so you can meet virtually with somebody. And easily come in here and there'll be a join button on any of those meetings as they come about. Another thing that we were exploring the other day at our Office Microsoft 365 learning community was the speed dial, where this is a place where you can save the names of people, where you can give a video call or a voice call directly within here. But the neat thing is, if I come over to chat or anywhere I see somebody's ID, if I hover over their ID, it will bring up the spot where I can give them a phone call. I don't even have to leave the chat. You know, if there were multiple people in this chat and I just wanted to call Andrew, I could quickly give them an audio call. So you can organize your calls. You can have groups, like I have the HR staff in here, and it also makes recommended contacts, or you can search for people. And the files, this is where you can find all your files that are shared within Teams or on OneDrive. So you have easy access to all these through your Teams portal. And I also put tasks on here. If you're using the to-do in Outlook, adding tasks in Outlook, those will show up here in your task list. Also, if you're using tasks, or planner is what it used to be called, you will have access to all those tasks as well. And it'll tell you what the source is for those. And you just click on the ... and that gives you other resources. So Teams really is a portal for all those different applications that you can use within Microsoft 365. So, and it customizes it. So that is my quick tour. If you want to know more, definitely come to the Microsoft 365 Learning Community sessions or contact me and I can help you out there. All right, so now we get to the part where we're going to take a look at a scenario or a use case for this. So what are teams in the future going to look like? Well, these are the teams that I like to think my teams look like this right now, right? But they don't, because everybody's not on the same page. So you've all volunteered to be an active member of the fun committee. We're going to have some fun today. And Brutus is my co-chair on this committee. So he's helping me out today. But we are going to use Teams to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate all our work for the fun committee today. Susan, yes, I was using tasks by Planner. Planner's been renamed to tasks, so you might see either one within the interface. Eventually, they'll be just phasing over to tasks instead of Planner, is what the goal is.
Thanks.
So anytime a new team gets together, we need to talk about how we're going to work together. So let's pretend like this is our first meeting. We're meeting in Microsoft Teams. We're pretending here. And we need to sit down and decide, how are we going to work together? So I came up with these five items here. One being, I want to communicate using Teams. I don't want to use email as a communication source if possible. I want to use OneNote to capture and share our team information. I want to put all our files and any comments and conversations we have about them on the Teams interface. And if there's action items, I want to use tasks to organize those action items and share status updates in between meetings. And then I want to meet virtually using my Microsoft Teams, the Teams meeting. So how do we go about doing this, right? So for those of you that are in here, communicating using Teams is fairly simple. The second you join the team, it's going to take you to the posts tab. We know we have all these posts up here. So if I wanted to reply to the survey here, I can reply and say, great poll. And my response will go directly there. I'm commenting on the poll. If I want to start a new conversation, I could start a new conversation in here. So, and I'm going to call this @Fun Committee, and notice Fun Committee will pop up, and I do this for a reason. This @mention for the Fun Committee is going to notify everyone that has joined the committee that there's a message that's out there, even if they don't have notifications turned on. So I'm going to say, welcome to the team. Sending that out there. So feel free to respond for those of you that are participating today. So this is where we're going to have our conversations in between meetings. If you have something that you want to share, that you want to say, a question you want to ask, just come into the posts area and post it there. And then we as a group can collaboratively respond to whatever questions that you might have or requests. So you're more likely to get a response faster from somebody if you post something in here as well. You'll notice that on the side you can like comments that are out there. So there's different emojis that you can use on the side. And if this was something like this poll right here is something that I might want to come back to later, I'm going to pin this. And anytime you pin something, it pins it for everybody. And so you can come up to this little show channel information box up here, and pinned posts will show up right here. And no matter where it is, where I am, if I click on this, it's going to take me to that post. So you can have a way that you can easily access those posts. When you're done, you just come back and you unpin it, and it falls off the list for everybody. This is a quick way too to see who's all a member of the team as well. Is there a drawing tool for annotating over images? I'll have to answer that one later, because that'll be something that would be available within the Teams meeting. And since we're not in a Teams meeting, I really can't show you that. But yes, you can annotate in a Teams meeting if you're meeting with each other. All right, so I told you we were going to use OneNote, right? So now that we know we're going to communicate in posts, let's go ahead up to this Fun Committee notebook. This was something, it was probably called Notebook, but I came in and I renamed it. You can rename the tasks at the top to something that makes more sense for your group. And so I set up my OneNote notebook in here with the agenda for today. So everybody has access to this. You could have came in here earlier and saw what was on the agenda today to help yourself prepare for the meeting that's going on. So I want to take a look quickly at our purpose. You know, we're here today, we're the Fun Committee. The first time we've met, we want to see what's going on. So I created a link to the next page right here, so we could easily find that information within here. So you can read the purpose yourself right there, but we're looking to incorporate fun into the workplace, but we've got to be economical and cost effective about what we're doing. And it can't interrupt with, you know, the work that we're doing already. So how did I do that? How did I get that link right there? All I did is I right-clicked on purpose and I copied a link to this page. So you could be in any notebook that the group has access to, or be on any page, right-click, copy a link to that page, and go to the page where you want to make the link, and right-click on it and say, I want to put that link right here, and insert it. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that just because that's not the right link. So there's no confusion as to where to go. I don't have to say, hey, go to our purpose page to see what the purpose is. You just click on the link. You're already saving people more time by being organized. So our working agreements, I came up with that initial list of working agreements, but I want to know, is there anything that you guys might want to work on, and we can have a final list of working agreements in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to easily copy this and go down to our final one here and paste that in. But is there anything else you would like to see on our working agreements list? Or maybe this is something you need to think about for a future session. We can finalize this the next time we meet. All right, well, know that this is here. Anyone that has access to the team can come in here and they can type in this notebook. I'm not the only one that has access. Everybody can come in here. So feel free throughout the meeting, especially in this initial meeting in the notes area, and type in your notes right here, the things that you're hearing that the team needs to document so we remember what to do. All right, so the real reason we came together today is because we need to generate some ideas. And Brutus and I did a little bit of research before it came to the session. And so we have this research section that we started right here with different ideas. But I noticed that Brutus did not follow number one, some of our working agreements. He actually emailed me something that needs to be added here. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on general, and I'm going to get an email address to this general channel and copy that. Now I'm going to go back over to my email, and this is what Brutus had emailed to me. Brutus, shame on you. You should have, put this in the team, but hey, I can easily forward this to the team. I'm going to put this in there and send it over to the team right now. So what'll happen is I just emailed that over. It should appear in the posts area here pretty soon, as soon as it comes through. Here's all the information. I didn't have to copy and paste or anything. I just emailed it to the team. So we'd have this information for our meeting today. And from here, if I wanted to, I could copy this and go back over to my fun notebook, into my research section, and paste that in there. So let's see, I probably already created a page for this, but I'm just going to go ahead and I created a new page. We'll call this one Trivia Hub. Now we have all the information that we need right here. So during the meeting, or even maybe prior to the meeting, I might have asked people to go through and do a little research, watch these videos. Or maybe at the meeting, I'm just letting you know that this information is here. So at the next meeting, we can make that decision on what's going on. But you can see within OneNote, there's a lot of different features in here that we have that we can use in OneNote. Think of OneNote as a 3-ring binder. It's a 3-ring binder that you have different sections, and you can have different pages within each of the sections. So anything that's research related, we have a different page for the different research that we're doing here. And we can easily go through and put that information on a single page. Now, how did people do this in the past? Well, maybe you use one Word document and just threw everything into the Word document. Kind of gets confusing when you have a bunch of information together on one page, all that scrolling that people have to do. You don't have to do that. You can see that the video is embedded within OneNote. So I don't even have to leave the Teams interface or OneNote in order to view the video. I can just click on it, view the video from in here. And if I did want a bigger version of it, I could, once I click on it, it'll let me open it in YouTube if I wanted to watch it there. And I can put links here. So people can go out to the web based on the links that I set up and look at things from there as well. So it's a great way to share information, to keep information together. Nobody has to go back to an email or a calendar entry where this might have been shared in the past. We all know that we're using OneNote to store our research. All right, and I know my time's coming to an end. So we were going to have another meeting, but I think we need to start thinking about, okay, if we were to have some tasks, let's fast forward to, we selected, or we're going to select an item at our next meeting. And so tasks or planner is where we're going to go in order to add those tasks. Now you can see I have one in here for brainstorming fun options. And when you add a task, you have the option to set the progress, the priority, the start and end date, put a little note on there. You can even create a list of tasks that need to be done within the task. You can even add attachments to the task, so people have that there, and provide comments on those tasks. So how do you go about doing this? One, you can just add a task right here. So we need to select a product that we're going to use. What are some other things that we might need to do besides selecting a product? We need to purchase it. We might need to test it, test the game. You know, we have all these different things. We have to pay for it, or we have to, I guess purchasing it is paying for it, right? We might have to advertise once we're ready. Advertise the date. We have to select a date. So there's a lot of things we have to do. So we have our list here, and I'm going to break this list into a pre-event. We're going to add another bucket called event, and then one called post-event. So we can take these tasks and we can say, okay, select a date. That has to happen pre-event. So I can come in here and I can say, I want that to be in the pre-event area. Advertise the date, that's got to be pre-event. Testing the game, that has to be pre-event. Purchasing the product, selecting the product. So yeah, we've got a lot of pre-event items, but what about at the event? We need to, you know, host the event as a task. So you can easily get your different items in here. If you spell things wrong, that's okay. You get your tasks in there, and then you can open each of these tasks, and as a group you can decide, okay, what's the priority on this? When do we want to start working on this? When is the due date on this? Type a more description in there. You can put a checklist of items, so task 1, task 2, whatever it is on here, and attach any documents that you might need. And once you add it in there, you close it, and now you can see I set it so I could see the tasks right here on the card. So I'm going to go in and fill in some of these other items on here so we can see how we can use this. So the other thing too that we didn't talk about is you can assign this to people in the team. So I can say, hey, Andrew, this is assigned to you. And this task right here to pick the date, maybe this is Elisa and Jeff. You know, they're going to work together on this task to select the date. And who's going to test the game? Jennifer Spicer. And I think we need another person. We'll have Laura help test as well. So you can go through and you can add who's responsible for what, the dates, the times. And then there's a chart over here that you can use to see the status of things, who's assigned what, where they stand within the event. So when you have meetings, you can actually go to this charts area and go down the list, you know. So today is brainstorming the fun items. Once that falls off the list, we can move down to select a date. We can open that here. We can have our conversation. We can type our notes in here. And it sticks with the actual event that is on here. So now Andrew's going to get an email too, because I put a comment in here and it's assigned to him. He's going to get an email saying that there's a comment on this. So this is, hopefully this isn't new to a lot of people using tasks. Yep, Andrew says he did get an email, but you can manage your tasks and use this as a conversation piece during your meetings that you have as well. And like I said before, the files here, you can upload whatever files you want in here, and you can link to those in the tasks. So your files are still in here. You just say, I want to use SharePoint, which is the back end for the file storage in Teams, and to be able to use it. Now, I know there was a question from somebody that was like, well, why would you use Teams over SharePoint? Anytime you create a team, it creates a SharePoint site. So I created a link up here to our SharePoint site, just so you can see what the difference is. So on my SharePoint site, I added a little bit of news out here, and it has access to our files, the same files that we have access to within the team. So I prefer to use Teams over SharePoint because it's easier to navigate through and have conversations about different things. And we haven't even, I know we're running short on time. I'm going to hold it at that, but there is a way to collaborate on files. There's so many things that you can do within Teams. So if you haven't joined the team already, definitely join the team, explore some of these different tabs that we have up here that I've shared. Hopefully it'll give you some ideas about Teams etiquette on this page, how to go about using Teams. This is all available to you. I'm not going to get rid of the fun committee team, so you have access to all this information. So we are going to go to creating a new mindset. So I kind of tried to show you how the way we've been doing things in the workplace, things need to change. We're doing things using old school tools. Email came out for the majority of people probably in the 1990s, early 2000s, and people are still using that as their primary tool for communicating. So it really is time to start taking a look at how we can use the different technology to bring people together, to start coordinating and collaborating and communicating in a place where we all don't have to be in a meeting per se, but we could be working together on something and answering people's questions whenever we're able to work on something. So I just encourage you to think about, how am I doing things, and is there a better way of doing things? And think about how your current mindset. We talked about that. How are you currently thinking? Is it just because it's easier to use email because I already know how to do it and I don't have time to learn something else? But Stephen Covey, one of his 7 habits of highly effective people, is sharpening the saw, learning new things that'll help you be more efficient in the way that you do things. So hopefully this presentation has helped you a little bit to create a new mindset that maybe I wasn't doing things as efficiently as I could. And there are tools out there. If I take the time to get to know those tools, take little baby steps, I might be able to do more with less in this economy, while being able to be a lot more flexible with where I'm doing things and how things are done. We no longer have to sit in meetings for an hour when we can go into a meeting, share what needs to be shared in person, but then work on things within the Teams interface at the time that we're available to do that as well. And know that everything that you might have learned today, that knowledge isn't power until it's applied. That's a quote by Dale Carnegie. So this stuff, that there is a better way of doing things. So hopefully you'll think about what you're learning and how you're going to be applying it after today's session. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. There are a couple of questions in chat. Did you want to take a look at those real quick before we let you go?
And I will get a copy of this chat on my downloaded to my computer today. So whatever we don't get to, I will take a look at those. Yep, I will pass along the 365 Learning Community information.
And do you want to refresh people about your learning sessions? I think you said Thursdays at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, Thursdays at 2 o'clock. It's the Microsoft 365 Learning Community. I typically, about a week in advance, I send out a reminder, but it's always in the same room. We have a link to the meeting within our team. So once you join the Microsoft 365 Learning Community team, you have access to that calendar entry and you can add it to your Outlook calendar and join those meetings. So, and if there's anyone that has a question, there's a lot of things in the chat. So if you want to unmute yourself maybe and just ask your question, that would be great. Anyone? So is there anyone out there, I'm curious, that's using SharePoint but hasn't been using Teams? Yeah, Dawn, what do you use yours for?
We use SharePoint. All of our advisors in the Grand Rapids and Northern region have a SharePoint site where they keep and track all of their documents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we don't really use Teams. I think it's a matter of getting everybody acclimated with that versus kind of going away from the old school email. But I think right now you've got a lot coming in through email. You often get text, and then you forget to check this Teams, and it's it's almost overload a little bit in terms of making sure that you reply to all of them.
Yeah, it is a change in mindset, right? I know when I first started doing this, I had to ask myself, I was at home actually this summer, and I was like, oh, I got to call so-and-so. And I went out to the directory and I'm like, why are you going out to the directory? Check and see if they're in chat in Teams. And if they're active, they'll have, a little icon here that says they're, if it's green or red or whatever, they'll let you know that they're in Teams, that they're using it, and send them a chat. Go up to the chat area and just send somebody a chat or try to call them. What do you have to lose? It'll just go to their voicemail, their Team's voicemail, which they'll never access. You can just hang up on them.
I definitely like Zoom over Teams meeting though. I will say I have a better experience with a Zoom than setting it up through Teams.
Yeah, you can. There is a Zoom add-in through Teams if you prefer to use it. I haven't used it myself, but you can see I have the little Zoom right here where I could set up a Zoom meeting with somebody within the Teams interface. I've just been trying to be consistent with using Teams.
Jody, could you do this with students for a class?
Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't. They have access to Office 365. I think Luke Hedman had been experimenting with it. I can see if there's any other faculty members that might have been experimenting with it that I can reach out to if you want, Monica.
Yeah, I think I would like that because a lot of them are having a hard time getting on. And even though I'm showing stuff on my screen, just with internet connectability, there's some issues. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that.
I can comment on that quickly, Jody. Jody and I actually worked with on a project for Ferris last spring, and there was 2 students involved with us on that project, and we used Microsoft Teams, and it worked out extremely well, especially when we were having conversations and collaborating and saving documents and sharing those documents with each other. It worked great.
Yeah, it did. They had no issue getting into the meetings and sharing files or anything with us. So yeah, the thing I have up on my screen, so we talked about SharePoint. There's 2 different types of sites you can create in SharePoint. One is your typical team site, which is probably what most of you are familiar with. When I created the Staff Center website, SharePoint site, I used a communication site. And you can see the difference in a communication site. It looks like a website. So you can come out here and you can set up your links at the top. You can have, the fancy little images, buttons that'll take you to different places. You can go out here. One thing that I've been playing around with recently too is using events, using their events tool on the Staff Center site to post all the different meetings. I've integrated a Microsoft form here so people can register for any of our sessions. And if they register, I send them a calendar entry. That is a manual process right now, but I know there's ways to automate things. And if Mark's still here, I might have to talk to him a little bit later. You can do a photo gallery. I have a an embed code for my SharePoint site. I even have my own news that's posted here. And the neat thing that I found about having the SharePoint site is I can add these to the university-wide notice. So look at my university-wide notices I send out at the bottom. I've started sharing my upcoming events specifically from my page. I'm sharing my different news articles that we're posting right here in those as well on the university-wide notices site. So just because it's on your site doesn't mean you can't utilize those resources in other places as well. So,
All right, Jody, I'm going to say thank you very much. We've got about 5 minutes before the next session starts. I want to give everyone time to get there. So really appreciate it. Lots of good comments in the chat and so much good information. Thank you.
thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. It was great.
Bye-bye.